Hello and welcome to Snipes Castle, the U.S. Navy Sailors Podcast. I'm your host, retired Senior Chief Petty Officer Darrell Starks, with an interesting story about my experience with gays in the military and the possible discharge of transgender personnel from the military, as stated by the incoming President Donald Trump. Well, my first experience with gays in the military is my uncle James, prior to me joining the Navy, telling me a joke. And the joke was, he said, 200 sailors go out in a submarine and 100 couples came back when they went on deployment. As a 17-year-old, I found that funny, but it didn't dissuade me from joining the Navy. Now, my first actual experience with realizing that there were gays in the military, because you got to realize at that time it was 91 and nobody came out, nobody was talking about being gay, nobody raised their hand or was out there flamboyant advertising that they were gay. So it was like, you never know who was gay, just by, you can only tell by their tendencies, and then you were only speculating they were gay. All right. But my first time realizing that there were gays in the Navy was when I was in boot camp, and my company commanders came in and we were all lined up, and the company commanders told us a couple of recruits were caught in the bathroom in another part of the barracks. I remember the company commander stating, "If you're found out to be gay, you're out of here. We don't play that here." I'm saying it nicely because he used choice words. He was cussing and cursing, carrying on about homosexuals in the military and how they don't allow that. Now, moving on board my first ship, the USS Kidd, DDG 993, which is now in the service of Taiwan, a seaman who was in deck department had to come and sleep in engineering berthing. Engineering berthing is where I stayed. He stayed in deck department, but there were not enough racks or beds up there, so he had to come sleep with us until a rack opened up there. So being around the sailor, I saw he had feminine tendencies. Everybody saw he had feminine tendencies. All right. So we was about to go on a 6-month deployment, and what he did was he said, "Hey, I'm gay." And when I came down to berthing, I saw his rack was all clear. And I thought he went up to deck berthing, but he told them that he was gay. So he got kicked off the ship, kicked out the Navy, and he avoided the deployment. So my experience with gays in the Navy at that time was, hey, they're weak. When the going got tough, meaning that we were going out for a 6-month deployment, all they had to do was say, I'm gay, and they got kicked out the Navy. That's my first experience with gays in the Navy. So that's my thinking at the time. So I get to my second ship, which was the USS Porter. And again, there's another seaman that has these feminine tendencies, and we was about to get underway on another 6-month deployment, and guess what he did? Hey, I'm gay. All right. Got kicked out the Navy to avoid deployment. And again, that basically emphasized or reaffirmed my belief that, okay, when the going got tough, these gays would punk out. They would say, hey, I'm gay, get kicked out, and they wouldn't have to go on deployment. Now, you got to realize during this time, when I was on a porter, it was the don't ask, don't tell policy under President Clinton. Now, there may have been countless others that said, hey, I'm gay, and they got kicked out that I don't know about, but those were the two I knew that came out to be discharged from the Navy by stating, I'm gay. Now, I want to show you something real interesting. I'm going to read you one of the articles from the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The UCMJ is the legal framework governing all members of the United States military. Specifically, I want y'all to take a look at Article 125 on sodomy reads, any person subject to this chapter who engages in unnatural carnal copulation with another person of the same or opposite sex or with an animal is guilty of sodomy. Penetration, however slight, is sufficient to complete the offense. Any person found guilty of sodomy shall be punished as a court martial may direct. So, sodomy is against the rules, it's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's outlawed. Can you believe that? Notice it says opposite sex as well. Sodomy doesn't have to be just from the rear end. It can happen orally, as I found out on USS Porter when a young female sailor exposed multiple male sailors she performed her work on, meaning she gave them oral sex. So that is considered sodomy. She was charged with 3 counts of sodomy at her open captain's mast for all to see. Now, those are the 3 she gave up. Ain't no telling how many more others there were that didn't get called out. So it's a charge that can go both ways. It can go the homosexual route, and it can go male-female route. Now, when I got to Navy recruiting in New York in 1998, I'm an actual recruiter bringing people into the Navy, and I read the recruiting manual. I remember specifically asthma being at the top of the list of disqualifiers and homosexuality topping the list as well. So let me enlarge my screen a little bit more so you can actually see it. All right. Now, down below, these are a list of disqualifiers for the Navy, specifically the ones at the bottom with the arrow. Exhibits transsexual or other gender identity disorders. And the other one is basically homosexuals are banned. Basically, this is what it's saying. And if you go to the next slide, you can see homosexuality. And this was this out the manual from 2008. It read pretty much the same way when I was in the Navy. When I went to recruiting in 1998. And I'm going to read it for you. Homosexuality policy. And this is out the Navy recruiting manual. An applicant shall be rejected if she has engaged in homosexual conduct or has volunteered a statement that she is a homosexual unless such acts are a departure from the applicant's usual behavior. Such acts are unlikely to recur. Such acts were accomplished by force, coercion, or intimidation, and the applicant does not have a propensity to engage in homosexual acts. Basically, don't ask, don't tell. If you don't tell me that you're homosexual, then you're qualified. If you tell me that you're homosexual, then this is how it should be handled. Recruiters shall not question the applicant about his or her sexual preference or orientation. Don't ask, don't tell. If, however, the applicant makes a statement that he or she is a homosexual or a bisexual, or if evidence otherwise comes to light indicating an applicant may be homosexual, then homosexual conduct becomes a qualification standard. Do not question the applicant. Stop processing. Contact ComNav CrewCom for further guidance. And they had like a little number in the book. They had a number in the book. And I remember this specifically happened when I recruited, I believe the second time it happened, because a guy came in there saying that he was gay. And I think he was trying to get something out of us or whatnot. But we saw the process and we had him contact that number. He went to the office, called the number, and he walked out the office. And then he walked out of the recruiting station. He didn't even say anything to us. And basically, I'm pretty sure they told him, "Hey, you disqualified. Beat it," But that's the homosexuality verbiage that was out of the recruit manual. It was the same way when I went in 98. I contacted a sailor I worked with who was recruiting at the time, and she said those gay and homosexual entries in the recruiting manual were removed to allow the enlistment of LGBTQ. But sodomy is still in the UCMJ, okay? The charge of sodomy is in the UCMJ, but somebody has to actually catch you in the act before they can actually charge you with it. All right, so what you do in your own house is your own business, which really, that's the way it should be. All right. Now, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed by Congress on September 20th, 2011, and that was signed by President Barack Obama. So he repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So this allowed gay, lesbian, and bisexual people to serve openly in the United States Armed Services. All right. And when that happened, this happened. This is a picture from a ship returning from deployment, and this was the first lesbian kiss from returning from deployment. Because when we do like raffles when we're underway, and the person that won the raffle, got to leave the ship first, and they get the first kiss, usually between a man and a woman. But this time it was with two females, and they kissed. It was all in the newspapers, of course, all on the internet or whatnot, advertising this as the new norm. And, I could tell you what some sailors had said. Some sailors were out there saying, I don't want my daughter, I don't want my son, my children witnessing this stuff, because you got traditional people that think that man and woman, that's the way it should be. I'm one of those people. Man and a woman, that's the way it should be. Why should I have to look at this? But it's changing times. So, and this is what we have to deal with right here now. You have to deal with a new added, I wouldn't call it a distraction, but this is the new norm, because the military is adopting what society is now accepting. All right. So we move along to Trump to medically discharge 15,000 transgender troops. 15,000 spread across the military. That's some bodies right there. That's a good bit of bodies right there. All right. So what are the main arguments for and against this policy? And this is from military.com. All right. Supporters argue inclusivity undermines good order and traditional military roles. Man, woman, now you got transgender. And I wonder how that work on deployment. How does that work on deployment? Which bathroom do they use? Did they get a separate bathroom? Do they go use officer country bathroom? I don't know how that works. They believe it negatively impacts troop strength and morale. I don't know, because I haven't really talked with anybody that said, hey, we got this transgender on board the ship. However, many cisgender service members disagree. They believe discharging transgender troops will have no effect on well-trained soldiers. So the cisgender, those who recognize that they're male, or those that recognize they're female, saying that, hey, if you get rid of them, we be all right. If a lot of them saying that, who knows what they're thinking? Who knows? All right. Opponents argue military service should be inclusive, regardless of gender identity. They emphasize skills and dedication to country. Supporters of transgender troops see them as a testament to diversity. They believe this aligns with the broader societal shifts toward equality. And like I said, when that first kiss, that's something that we had to accept now, because it's written. And I mean, we had training on gays in the military prior to them repealing this. Basically, if you didn't like it, then you can show yourself to the door. All right. They also emphasize the lack of data linking gender identity and poor performance uh, as a cause. This complex issue continues to be debated. Um, they believe this aligns with broader societal shifts toward equality. My thoughts about discharging 15,000 transgender troops are that I've dealt with similar integrations while I was in the Navy. For instance, I dealt with the integration of women on board ship. When my first ship, there was no women. There were no women on ship. They usually stationed on shore duty. And then they said, hey, they passed a law that said women can serve on board U.S. Navy ships. And I remember my first ship, USS Kidd, started outfitting. We went to yards, and I was like, who are those burthens in the back for? Those are for women. I'm like, what? Yeah, women are allowed to serve on board ship now. And you had to go through the growing pains with the women coming on board ship. Me personally, at that time, I didn't want women on the ship. I looked at them as a distraction. And then when I served with women on board ship, it was a distraction, But at the time, as I got a little older, I just, you had to accept it. Just like you have to accept the gays in the military, and you had to accept the transgenders in the military. I've never served with them, but you have to accept them in the military, in the Navy, wherever they're stationed. Now, years later, they've allowed transgenders to serve. The 15,000 or so transgender troops that are currently in my opinion, should be allowed to serve and finish what they started. Now, the government allowed them to join, and the government should honor their service. And if you see a few of my videos, I look at the serviceman as the ultimate citizen. I mean, we go by a higher set of standards than your average citizen. We do. There's some things in the service we can't do that you can do all day long. All right. So that's why I look at servicemen as the highest form of being a U.S. citizen. Right? And my opinion is I think these transgender personnel should be afforded the right to complete their service and finish out their time, because the government told them that, allowed them to do that. Now, I'm pretty sure, just like the women required their own birthing facilities, pretty sure they figured out how to accommodate transgenders who are now serving. Now, once the new administration comes in, they can ban the enlistment of any new transgender personnel into the armed services, but they shouldn't. And here's why. I had to deal with this, think about this, and I came to the conclusion that they should just continue to let them join if they want to join. And here's my reasons for that. Why they shouldn't ban them. It's all comes back to this, what I have in front of you here. The Sailor's Creed. And the last line states, let me remove that banner for you so you can see it. I am committed to excellence and the fair treatment of all. Committed to excellence and the fair treatment of all. The fair treatment of all. If you go and ban the transgenders, that's not treating them fairly. That goes against the Sailor's Creed right there. That goes against our creed. You've already said that they can join, so let them continue to join and be a part of the armed services if they so choose. Now, the rules in the beginning stated that it was a gender identity disorder, deviant behavior. That's what it said in the recruiting manual. That was removed, and gays along with transgenders were allowed to serve openly. The military, I'm sure, went through all kinds of training to allow transgenders to serve. They did training for us, like I said earlier, after the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell when I was in, because it was stating that, hey, gays are joining the military. We got to train you up because they can be openly gay now. It's a case of the government made its bed, now lay in it. Unless there's a disparaging report out there that shows transgenders are a burden on the military and not living up to the high standards set by the military, the government should let them continue to join and serve. I'm a traditionalist, man, woman, one who used to not want women on ships and a ban on gays and transgender personnel. But since, even though I have retired, I am committed to excellence and the fair treatment of all, just like the Sailor's Creed says. Those are my views, and they've changed since I'm dedicated to that creed right there. Let me know what you think. I welcome your comments. Should transgender serve in the military or not? Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for everything military, everything Navy. And as I always say, if you support the troops, don't just support the troops, be like the troops. If you be like the troops, the world will be a better place. Take care, everyone. Snipes Castle out.
Joke, I'm fattening like Nutri-Sweet Crystal. I'm the light. We gon' miss you. You need a proper mirrors, my number.